Artistic Director and Conductor of your Dayton Philharmonic Orchestra. Welcome to Piano Bench Chat for October 2021. That was a little bit of Danse macabre by the French composer Camille Saint-Saëns, one of the pieces we'll be playing on our upcoming PhilharMonster family concert, our annual celebration of Halloween. PhilharMonster is one of my favorite days of the concert season because I just love Halloween. It's so much fun doing a goofy, silly costume concert with costumes. I come in costume. The orchestra is in costume, many of them. We have a contest. It's just really fun. It's also one of the most tiring days of the year because it's usually a pretty challenging program. We have one rehearsal in the morning, concert in the afternoon. I'm just a limp rag by the end of the day, but it's great, great fun, as Halloween should be. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that and a little bit about Camille Saint-Saëns, the composer who wrote Danse macabre. Saint-Saëns was a 19th century French composer. I think a composer who doesn't get enough respect. He wrote some just wonderful music, some great concertos for violin, piano, cello, the wonderful opera Samson and Delilah, and a whole bunch of tone poems, short tone poems, not as long as Strauss's or Liszt's. And one of the most perfect of them is Danse macabre, which is a kind of French take on the German romantic story of the Walpurgisnacht, the night when all of the ghouls and goblins and ghosts and demons get together and have, let's just call it a wild party. So this is a French take on the Walpurgisnacht, the Walpurgisnacht, we could call it. But this piece has so many cool things in it. I wanted to show you some of them during the piano bench chat. So the very first thing, and one of the coolest things, is the beginning. And the harp plays all those notes. What's that supposed to mean? Why does the harp keep playing it? Well, here's what the harp plays. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 Ds. The Walpurgisnacht celebration begins at midnight. So now you know what the harp is. The harp is the sound of a distant church bell tolling 12 midnight to mark the beginning of the festivities. And then the festivities begin and we hear this business from the solo violin. Why a solo violin? Well, there's the old romantic trope of the violin being the instrument that death plays. So death is the fiddler for this celebration. And the violin has 4 strings, and they are tuned to the notes G, D, A, and E. Except if you look at the very first page of Danse macabre, you will see that Saint-Saëns writes on the solo violin part, he writes accord du violon, meaning tuning of the violin, and the tuning of the violin is with E flat instead of E natural. So he wants the concertmaster to tune their E string down from E natural to E flat to give you that sound. Why? Well, to answer the why, we have to go back into the depths of freshman music history and all the way back to the Greeks and Pythagoras, who was not just a mathematician. Yes, he did the Pythagorean theorem, right triangle, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, but he was also a musician, certainly an investigator of music. Pythagoras and his followers did their musical investigations on an instrument called the monochord, which was simply one string with a movable bridge, and they would move the bridge around and see what happened to the sound. They were interested in the numbers because they were mathematicians. They were interested in the proportions. And they discovered that if you divide a string exactly in half, so the 2 lengths of string on either side of the bridge are they're the same proportion. So the proportion of the long string undivided to the string divided by the bridge is 2 to 1. You would get from that proportion what we call an octave. The same note, but the times 2 frequency note is an octave higher. And they consider that the most perfect interval in music because 2 to 1 was the most simple ratio. So if you took a scale and you built octaves, you would get nothing but perfect sounds. Perfect octave, perfect octave, perfect octave, perfect, 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 and more perfect. The next most perfect interval with the next simplest ratio was the 5th, where the ratio is 3 to 2. The upper note having what we would say, a vibration or a frequency 1.5 times the lower note. And so that gives you a perfect 5th. And if you build 5ths on the notes of the scale, you get a perfect 5th, another perfect 5th, another one, another one, another one, another one. What's that? Or I should say, what the hell is that? This is not a perfect 5th. It does not have the beauty and the simplicity of this. It has a kind of twang to it, and it's not just the piano needs tuning, but I'll wait till the heat comes on to do that. This is a diminished 5th. Don't worry about it. But it's not a perfect 5th. And in the Middle Ages, the monks who had taken over music from the mathematicians by then, they called this dissonant 5th Diabolus in musica, the devil in music. And so that's why Saint-Saëns wants a retuned violin so that Death, cousin of the devil, can have a violin that's tuned so it includes the diminished 5th of the devil in music. Another really imaginative and cute thing about this piece, and great thing about this piece of music, Danse macabre. There's another fun effect in the middle when Saint-Saëns uses what was then a relatively new percussion instrument called the xylophone in order to get the effect of the clattering of bones. And then there's another wonderful effect at the very end of the piece. So the goblins' celebration starts at midnight, and they have their champagne, and they dance, and it's, of course, a waltz. This is French. These are elegant ghouls and goblins and demons and devils, but they eventually get rather rambunctious, and everything, the orchestra makes a hell of a lot of noise. And then you hear that, and things start calming down. What's this? Think about it for a second. You might have to speak French. This is the French equivalent of cock-a-doodle-doo. It's the rooster crowing because the sun is coming up and it's dawn and it's time for all the ghouls and goblins to go back to hell or wherever they came from. So it's just a little 6-minute piece of music that we play on Halloween, Danse macabre is. But it is also a wonderful and imaginative and just perfectly crafted piece of music. Saint-Saëns, as I said, is a composer who does not get enough credit for being as good as he was. Little personal story, Saint-Saëns is also a favorite of mine because he represents the pinnacle of my, to the extent that I am, bilingualism between English and French. When I was living in France as a student, I invented a French tongue twister. I was very proud of myself when I came up with it. And the tongue twister is based on this situation. So Saint-Saëns wrote the opera Samson and Delilah. Very beautiful, very famous opera, lots and lots of performances. And there's so many performances that we've reached the point finally where 500 different tenors have sung the role of Samson in various productions in France. So the publishers have this big party for the 500 Samsons, and the 500 Samsons are all drinking a lot. And by the end of the evening, they are so drunk that they are completely out of their minds. And the result in French is Les 500 chansons de Saint-Saëns sont sans sens. Or, the 500 SaintSaens of Saint-Saëns are senseless. And that was my tongue twister. Anyway, that's a sense of the kind of fun we're going to have at Halloween. All kinds of great stuff. We have a world premiere of a piece called Trapped Like Rats by a good friend of mine, Mike Shelley. As you can imagine, it was a COVID quarantine piece that he wrote. Very angst-filled and a little spooky for the kiddies. Speaking of kiddies, children will be welcome at this concert. We have our safety protocols at the DPO and all of the DPAA and the Schuster Center as well, that most people, well, people above the age of 12 have to either be vaccinated or have a recent negative COVID test that they can establish. But kids younger than 12, and of course we want them for PhilharMonster, they can come, they just need to be masked the whole time. They don't have to be vaccinated. Of course, they can't be vaccinated yet. They don't need to show a negative test, but they have to wear a mask the whole time. And, you know, they can come in costume, so they can be masked. Perfect. If Halloween isn't your thing, if you want something just a little more elevated, that's the Sunday for PhilharMonster. Friday and Saturday night, we have the opening concert of the DPO's Super Pop series with the Pack Symphony, a fun show of music. Rat Pack, of course, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., all of their great songs. I've been assured there will not actually be any smoking on the stage, but except for that, it's going to feel like you have Frank and Dino and Sammy there just having a great time for you with the Dayton Philharmonic turned into a very big band. It'll be a wonderful evening. And that's not all. We have more stuff coming up at your DPAA later in the month. Dayton Opera has their Wild West themed version of Donizetti's delightful comic opera, The Elixir of Love, coming up. And at the end of the month, Dayton Ballet has their first show of the year called Light and Dark at the Victoria Theater. So all three wings of the Dayton Performing Arts Alliance, the Philharmonic, the Opera, and the Ballet, are on stage in October, and I hope you will join us. We had our opening concerts of the DPO season just last weekend. It was so great to be back on stage performing for you. The orchestra spread out a little bit for safety reasons, but pretty much like normal, a full-length concert, an audience in the hall. It was really nice. It was just wonderful to feel like we were back doing things the way we're supposed to. And I hope you'll join us. If you want to keep up with the latest safety regulations, it's very simple. You can just go to the DPAA website, daytonperformingarts.org/safety, and you'll get the up-to-the-minute safety regulations for the Schuster Center. We're so excited to be back performing for you. I hope you'll join us either for the Rat Pack Symphonic or PhilharMonster or both. We are here for you, and we just appreciate your support so much. So thanks for watching this Piano Bench Chat. Thanks for coming to concerts, and I will see you at the Schuster. Take care.